Hey guys, it's Jen Mara. I apologize that it took a couple of days to really get this up for devotion. I had some things going on with my master's class, and then work is just a lot going on. So I was like, you know what? And then I started asking opinions of people. And because the story I'm going to do for devotion is about a 25-page story, that's a long time to expect you guys to sit here and listen to this. So, what I am going to do is I'm going to break it probably, I don't know, maybe let me find a good stopping point. I should have done this before. Do, 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 do. Okay. I'm going to cut it, I guess, right here. So I am going to do two segments, and yeah, we'll see. People have said they have been enjoying these. I'm also thinking of trying to not only do some readings, do some book trailers, some visual things. I'm definitely trying out new things to market on TikTok and everything. So, yeah, again, this one I think works perfect with it for being Pride Month. I'll mention again, I try to bring it up every single time that I am donating proceeds uh this month from everything is going to the Trevor Project, as well as next month. And proceeds just from social alone, uh given because of that story, are going to be split between RAIN, which is the Rape Incest National Network, and as well as the Trevor Project on that one. So, without further ado, I will try to not stumble as I'm reading. This is Devotion from Selene Falls, and it is a very, very, very sad story. One of the first people that ever read this and critiqued it for me said, "Oh my god, I cried," and I was like, "I didn't mean to make people cry, but here we go." Fighting to ignore the bleating of the alarm screaming in his iPhone 14 Pro, Elias Elsher buried himself deeper in the mound of midnight betting, cursing at the alarm that didn't seem to work. Finally relenting, he slapped blindly at the nightstand, eventually hitting the black OtterBox, causing enough pressure to shut the damn thing up. For a moment, Elias searched the slow upload of his brain database for if it was a school day or not before sliding out beneath the sheets. Fuck. He padded to the bedroom, his parents still asleep, their light snoring in that still morning thick air like a fleece blanket that Elias had clung to the hours before. He wasn't a morning person by any means, but his parents had gotten used to his rousing about 2 hours or so before school, knowing he had to stop to make. After scalding himself in the hottest water possible, he meticulously combed out his dark hair before throwing on pajama pants and a My Chemical Romance t-shirt that he had haunted the living room in since Friday night. Grabbing his scuffed Converse One Stars in his backpack, he was outside moments just after the alarm sounded. Morning in Selene Falls was less creepy than what came with the twilight. Still, there were places in town where the sunlight never came, like the shady, dark lined streets where his family had lived most of his life. He shivered in a hoodie as he marched, the black JanSport backpack almost completely covered in band patches, assaulting his shoulder blade with each step. His heart raced in a good way. He was almost there. A few blocks from his own home, Elias pulled a heart shaped keyring from his pocket he'd been gifted almost 9 years before. In his trembling fingers, he pressed it to the lock and he awaited paradise. For the first time Hayden Keller had set eyes upon him, they swore it was magic. At 11 years old, most of their classmates still playing with toys smuggled into Batman and Pokemon backpacks between yellowing pages of math books, crushed science projects. Hayden supposed there was still a maturity about them, and had long given up the comforts of stuffed animals and action figures, instead in the search of true companionship. Since the fourth grade, Hayden was already reading at a high school level, preparing for the advanced placements in everything, only adding to their social anxiety when all they wanted was to fit in with their peers and not stand out. He was the other outsider playing on the swings by himself. The reasoning Elias later mentioned, because of the action of solitude, no one would lack the question and partnership. It just seemed one of those years that Elias still wore a color, a blue shirt over dark blue jeans, already fashionably torn up at the knees. Hayden blushed as they watched the boy. Their head imagined conversations. Sometimes Elias would look up and swear Hayden was watching them too. A stalemate. Hayden listened to the other children at recess, sitting beneath the tree at the edge of the playground. No odd bird song ever in Selene Falls. Their science teacher blamed it on the mining back in the day, driving away the natural animal population. But Hayden never heard of such a thing. Hayden, the only one perhaps wise enough to know what the adults were scared of in this town and the odd occurrences that dotted the feed. Hayden made eye contact, shyly peering up between long lashes that brushed their cheeks, blue eyes intently scorching into his chocolate ones. Elias gave the shy smile before ducking his head again, searching for Hayden. This had gone on most of the quarter until someone finally made a move. Hayden felt rooted to the ground as if the soil held them at their ankles, a silent plea. How good it would feel to actually have a friend. Tiptoeing through the empty house, Elias tossed his bag in the hallway and crept down the darkened hallway to the last door, chip black fingernails scraping the knob, fumbling. All these years, still transfixed and anxious, slowly moving along the gray shag and socked feet, small electrical charges building, nothing like the energy between them, pulling back the bedspread and slipping beneath. His eyes fell on his beloved, still sleeping. Hayden could sleep through anything. Snuggling close, Elias closed his eyes, hoping the reset alarm would actually go off, although it had been a long time since they had taken a mutual sick day. An afternoon of horror movies between lovemaking and binge eating junk food did sound nice. He didn't think he'd hit anything important going on today in his classes, but he wasn't sure about Hayden. Not that it mattered, because no one would suspend the valedictorian. Only a few more months and they would be out of this shithole. The whole future planned over the last 9 years. Hayden had the grades and the scholarships waiting. He instead would be the one that worked while they got to study. They would find couples housing on the campus, even if it meant Elias would have to enroll in a few courses that Hayden could help him muddle through. Only 6 more months of high school. 6 more months until their life could begin together. He stared down at Hayden, almost seeming oblivious to his presence, although when they awoke, Hayden always claimed to know the precise moment Elias arrived. He feigned hurt that he wasn't rushed with kisses, but he valued Hayden's sleep time, knowing a cranky partner would set you up for a bad day all around. He traced his fingers up Hayden's side as he wrapped his arms around them again, spooning them from behind. He laid his cheek against their shoulder and breathed in the lavender scent of the shampoo from the bathroom. The light outside the window burning brighter, Elias tossed the comforter over both their heads, shielding them from the appalling white light of Selene Falls encroaching in the house. Even mornings felt off here, and a shiver ran up his spine. He clung to Hayden even tighter. Smaller kids overtook the skate park for sledding during the winter months, but the teenagers still showed up to host snowball fights, delightful screaming as Fisk gloves through handfuls of wet, heavy snow. Heart attack snow, they called it in this part of the world, as it took down many an elderly person. Their favorite activity as a couple had become people watching, carefully observing the transactions, measuring the space between social interaction as if it was some sort of psychology report. Hayden and Elias giggling together about how stupid the rest of humanity was. At 13, some might call it puppy love, but the fire that burned between them each time they kissed was something more. It had always been something more from their first moment of timid flirting on the playground swings, simply destined to be together. It was a force too powerful for either to fight, and somehow they both caved to it at 11 years old, and a pain rushing at each other, shouting awkwardly over to get their piece in until both of them laughed and said their names and greetings again. It was from that moment they would have an inseparable bond, more than friends, closer than any lovers could ever be. At 13, they in a tangled heap of shivering limbs, despite the layers of clothing in the snowbank, passing a travel mug of hot chocolate back and forth between them. Elias seemed a little distracted. Hayden worried about what could have befallen him and kept brushing it off. Hayden mentioned wanting to go to the bathroom. Elias unhooked himself from their body. You want me to go with? He asked slowly against their ear, his hot breath steamy against their skin. Hayden thought about it for a moment and shook it off. I'm okay. I'll be right back. Elias leaned back, brushing a kiss against Hayden's chapped lips. I'll be waiting. I love you. Hayden felt a blush rise. Whatever was distracting him earlier, they knew it was nothing personal. Neither there was never a reason to question Elias's devotion. It was meant to be. Hayden walked towards the bricked building that hosted the vending machines and the bathrooms, fortunately single, unisex. Years before, fumbling tarot cards that they weren't sure they had read correctly as the box came sans any instruction pamphlet. Hayden had asked one question before spilling the contents on the white bedspread of their king-size bed. Was Elias the one? Had Hayden found their true love? The bathroom was occupied, and Hayden lowered their glance to avoid the others in the cramped hallway. Slightly hungry, they would suggest getting chicken nuggets the next time they walked to the neighboring McDonald's to refill hot chocolate. Finally, the bathroom door opened, some blue-collared shithead muttering a grunt as they analyzed the young teen. Hayden bit down on their lower lip, prepared for the haunting question. Were they boy or girl? Alien or vegetable? Instead, the asshole moved along. Unbundling took a moment before peeing, the fierce cold of the bathroom getting into Hayden's bones. Maybe it was time to ask Elias to move somewhere warmer where they could get out of the wet clothes a while. Hayden's house had always been empty, impossible to know what their mother did after work hours, unreachable sometimes for the whole weekend. If it wasn't for Elias's parents always sending over food, he would have they would have starved to death by now. Elias's parents seemed to love Hayden as much as they claimed, even presenting the idea of helping them get legally emancipated when Hayden was ready, letting them move in, although it opened the question of where to store the extra teenager. Elias volunteered his room and planned to relocate into the walk in closet to get around underage teens sharing a bedroom. Fumbling back into the layers of wet clothes, Hayden strode out of the bathroom, feeling the eyes all around them, navigating blindly on downcast eyes, the eternal GPS guiding them back until the energy was stronger, till they neared their charging port. What in the world? Elias had gripped their wet glove and motioned Hayden into a giant heart shape carved into the snow. Elias and Hayden forever, wet script read. Between fingers turning blue from the cold, a black little velvet box he flipped open and dropped to one knee in the snow mound. Hayden, on the last day of high school, will you marry me? Overwhelmed, Hayden said should have started with a resounding yes, and instead pondered, "How would I have done you have done this if you never let me go pee?" Why do you think I kept feeding you hot chocolate? He smirked. So, about the thing I said, because it's kind of cold down here. Hayden glanced at the small, glittering onyx stone, so dark around with the surrounding whiteness. I'll put that on once we go inside and I won't drop it, they replied smartly. And yes, I want to spend the rest of my life with you, Elias Elsher. Stirring in his embrace, Hayden moved around slightly, a soft moan coming from the pins and needles of waking limbs. He rolled on his back, giving Hayden more room on the bed, his gaze lustful as he took them in. Hayden's icy eyes peered under long lashes, beckoning forward. Within seconds, they crashing into each other in exuberant passion. Hayden pushed him back on the bed again, enjoying the view as they took in his still pajama-clad body. I think we have enough time. They moaned into each other's mouths as clothing was littered on the carpet. Elias loved the feeling of Hayden moving on top of him, his fingers raking along their soft skin. He did his best to lean up for another greedy kiss before being pushed back down. I didn't declare this my submissive day, he pouted. I decided for you, Hayden said. Besides, I have to burn off some extra energy before my trig test. Elias groaned as Hayden's hips ground against his he enraptured by their touch. I forgot about your test. I'd help you study, but oh God, yes. Do that again. Oh fuck. Hayden grinned. You couldn't pass my trig test. That and all the blood has left your brain. I'm your stupid sex toy, he grunted. Very, very stupid and very horny. Should I let you up? Hayden teased. Do I have to beg? Will you? Only for you. A tussle and rearranging as they glided into the desired position, Hayden scraping his teeth against Hayden's neck between moans. My vampire, Hayden must. What will people say about another hickey? Everyone in this stupid town knows we've been engaged for 5 years. You think they're aware that I marked my property? He smiled. I can put them in places that people can't see if it makes you conscious at school, my love. They are in places people can't see. Hayden probed his mouth with their tongue, fingers roaming his warm body. In this hell, he was their paradise. I want proof that you love me. He dug at Hayden's flesh, clawing desperately as he neared his peak. Their eyes met. If the people in the next condo didn't know the enlivened screaming of the daily ritual of teenage sex, they might have called the cops to the murder scene. How long until the alarm? Elias purred as they crumbled against the firm mattress. It had been decided their next one needed a little more bounce. We don't have that kind of time, Hayden smiled, their fingers running through his dark mane that fell against his sharp cheekbones. Let's take a shower and get dressed instead. Okay, he relented. In the nearby window, momentarily, the outside light blocked. Weird, Elias thought. For a moment, he was concerned someone was peering in, but they were on the second floor. Hand in hand, they left the locker, Hayden stopping before the homeroom, leaning in for a kiss tamed by school policy. Even in the quick gesture, there was fire. The school once complained they broke too many of the keeping your hands to yourself policies, but they wouldn't dare suspend either of them. Hayden remembered a note home once to their absent mother, pondering if she had heard the schoolyard rumor that the two were engaged. Hayden deliberately left it on the empty refrigerator for days to see if their mother even returned. Other than keeping up the rent and coming home for a change of clothes between shifts, their mother couldn't be trusted. Hayden sometimes wished that they could take the Elsher family up on living there, but a Google search of the Department of Children and Family Services on the website of legal guardianship says it would endanger their relationship. Instead, Hayden spent every waking moment with the Elshers, returning to the empty Keller home, well fed and often in replaced clothing. Elias would hang out as long as his curfew allowed most night until they turned 17, presenting a united front to the Elshers that they were of age of consent, so spending the night together now wasn't an issue. On weekends, Hayden slept there. On school nights, in case anyone was checking, Hayden slept alone in the empty, broken home with the cell phone at hand in case something happened, and Elias arrived about 5 a.m. to spend a few hours in bed with them before they got ready for school. It was almost a Friday night, and they had a long list of movies and video games to lay in bed enjoying until the feral urges awoke again. To be fair, there really wasn't a break in the horniness, more like needing to recharge before they could do it again. Sorry. I'll see you in fifth hour, Hayden squeezed him again, wanting to sink into him. I love you. I'll write your history paper in study hall if you want. Someone coughed inside the classroom, tired of the Keller Elsher display blocking the hallway. Love you, Elias purred. Yes, please save me for my history paper. The next few classes flew by, and Elias took vague notice of what was happening in them. Excuse me. Needed a drink there. He was a good student, sure, but already cursed with senioritis from day one of the term. Hayden was the only one that was still focused and actually passing their classes by doing the homework for both of them. Instead, Elias was applying for jobs, saving every penny he came across, selling most of his prized possessions on eBay that would be too much to take to their small dorm room. Only a few months till they started an adult life together, although his parents couldn't ascertain that moment when, starting at 11, he presented the family with his life partner and his plans for foreverness. The Elshers never dismissed them as a package and accepted Hayden into the fold with open arms. Sorry. Cannot read. Outside the window, a shape scraped. Elias turned his head in hopes that he would catch a fleeting glimpse. Over the heavy classroom chatter, a static burned in his ears. He whipped around wildly on the stool of the science lab. Who had left the speaker on? Was no one else noticing this? He swore he saw a shadow slide against the eastern-facing windows. Outside, Selene Falls guarded their secrets well, the sinister woods taunting him. A heaviness fell over his chest as the dream that haunted him the night before suddenly flew back to his mind. He had forgotten to tell Hayden about it when they woke this morning, but given their telepathy, and his twin flame probably already knew. Are you listening to me, monster? Hayden playfully pulled Eliza's arm as he stared out the window. Hmm. Sorry, I swear there was something outside. I felt it all day. He took Hayden's tiny hands in his and pressed it to his lips. I think you should stay with me tonight, just in case. It was stupid to want to retain independence. There was no hesitancy in wanting to commit eternally to Elias, but Hayden sometimes fought against the feeling. Feeling weak, they pushed themselves to stay home on dark and stormy nights, even though they sat trembling under the blankets, texting Elias to protect them with his energy. What's for dinner tonight? Really? You get to spend all night in bed with me with irro, ir, bleh, ir, cannot talk today. Irrevocable access to my naked body. And you want to know what's for dinner. You're sleeping naked? You're not? So, what's for dinner again? Hayden teased. I need fuel for all the things I need to do to you tonight. Elias pulled Hayden closer. The light was falling from the sky. Selene falls so dark in the autumn months as winter days went away. The darkness sunk into his bones. It would feel good to leave here finally and put this creepy place in the rearview. Sorry, I'm not used to reading really, really long ones, so I'm losing the ability to read. Hayden pulled from the embrace, studying him. You're really afraid of whatever this is, aren't you, monster boy? It's okay. I'll protect you from the bad dreams. Maybe you aren't sleeping well because I haven't slept over the last few nights. Hayden turned to the closet. You want me to pick outfits for the next few days? You're staying a few nights? Elias felt elated. Maybe Hayden was right, and their presence was a sedative to ease his mind. That or his nightmares would devour them both. All right, since I am losing the ability to read, I'm going to actually break after this next like 2 pages here. The Elshers called it the cuddle chair for as long as they could remember. The love seat, once wide enough in the early days of the relationship for Hayden and Elias to curl around each other like cats, the well-worn Winnie the Pooh throw from his bed as they indulged in marathons of horror movie and feeding each other burnt Jiffy Pop with buttery fingers, later used to paw each other relentlessly. The cuddle chair now cramped, but somehow it still supported them both. Hayden seated sideways, feet hanging over the armrests as Elias lay across them. The Winnie the Pooh blanket still reliable, but no longer the invisibility cloak concealing their deeds. The Elshers tried to look away when things got too friendly during a rerun of The Twilight Zone. Elias stiffened a giggle as Hayden's hand disappeared up his Bad Omens t-shirt, tracing his ribcage like braille. Her, Hayden's hand sliding over his chest, he moving into a better position to accept the caress, almost spilling off the front of the recliner. Mrs. Elsher peered over them and asked if she needed to leave the room. Elias collected himself, sitting up between Hayden's open thighs, his back wedged against their chests, Hayden's arms locking him into place. Can you see over me? Not really, came Hayden's muffled reply, spinning out a tangle of his long tail as he brushed it from their face. We can go in the bedroom and spread out more and finish watching this, Hayden suggested. The Elshers tried not to laugh. Might want to finish that history paper too, Mr. Elsher said before Hayden nodded. It was already taken care of. I'm glad you're staying here for a few days, Hayden. We can put you to work on these chores that Lazy Bones keeps putting off. I'm right here, Elias complained loudly. We know, his mother replied. I was hoping you could still hear me after all the hours of practicing drums this afternoon. When I'm famous, you'll be sorry for that comment, he retorted, but even Hayden was laughing. Baby, let's worry about taking out the garbage before you stink up the place, Hayden smiled. Elias was outnumbered and stalked out of the kitchen, gathering up garbage cans, Hayden at their heels, handing off a few as they silently walked down the long driveway. Coming to the street, it was silent. Light fog rolled into the forest. In the distance, something streaked through the tree line. Elias grabbed Hayden's hand. Stay close to me. His heart thumped as he heaved the bags on the curb, dragging Hayden back to where the light of the house still reached. The blackness of Selene Falls night seemed so much darker, trying to reach out to them. Are you sure you're okay, E? What the hell's going on? Don't you feel it? What, the creepy emptiness that looms over this fucking place? The shadows that try to consume us from within? We've been in this place our whole lives. I tell you, yeah, it's spooky as fuck, but I don't believe anything's gonna happen to us. So, all the missing people, the dead bodies, the weird fucking thing isn't related. This is the sort of place for a portal for evil. We need to get the fuck out of here. He didn't want to fight. He was a live wire in his emotions. Elias pacing, fist balled in his jeans pocket. The sting of cold hit him, seeping into his bones. He knew it was safer to get in the house, to stay in the light. Something about the night reminded him of the dreams that burned into his head like pyrography. The static blared in his ears again, almost dropping him. He peered around, anxious. Hayden bundled against the garage door, unsure what to do. "Let's get back inside," Hayden said, their arm protective around Elias's shoulder. They steered him back to the kitchen door. "Why don't I get you something to drink and you go to the bedroom? I'll make us a plate of something, too." Mrs. Elsher was washing the dishes before putting them in the dishwasher. Hayden thumped around in the fridge, banging a few cabinets. "I don't mean to get in your business, but are you two fighting about something?" "I don't know. It's hard to explain." Hayden sighed, selecting a bag of Oreos and two diet sodas from the stockpile of groceries. "He's been having these nightmares. Something about the woods and the old mine. I don't have much detail, but every time we're outside lately, Elias gets this sense of dread that something's coming to get us, and it makes him jumpy. I don't know how I can help him." Mrs. Elsher took the moment to digest the facts before answering. "I think you're doing your best, just listening and being there when he needs it. All the stress of the change is coming up with you leaving high school and those steady diet of gory movies you guys like to watch. If you need anything else, let me know. Thanks, Mom." Hayden returned to the bedroom with the purloined rations. Hearing Elias already in the shower, they settled on the bed. Outside, Selene Falls hosted no stars, the thin beam of light, the only starburst beyond the old woods. Something slid past the window just beyond Hayden's notice. All right, so I am going to call it there at a halftime because then we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah, then we'll have about 10 more pages left of reading that story. Like I said, Devotion I love because it has just such a different feel to it, that the fact that it's a love story, but it's a love story in the face of all this just chaos that's happening in Selene Falls and all the horror. So I will do part two of it. Then I am debating if I'm going to do, I was originally going to do a reading for Taste and Prometheus. Still thinking about it, or I might move on to doing some selections from Requiem. I'm not really sure. I do want to do, some other things like making some book trailers and, some other things, a lot more activities on TikTok. So, uh check out part 2. Later.